Welcome to The Mighty Dragon. Recently, I watched a terrific horror short called The Rose, written and directed by my friend and past The Mighty Dragon interviewee, Andrew Froening. The Rose stars Alex Alessi, an actor who provides a powerful performance. I just had to ask him onto the podcast. We discuss his career in acting, how he prepares for roles, what parts of himself he brings to a character, and how he handles feedback and criticism, plus much more. With his eyes on a superhero role, tune in to see what character this is. Or can you guess? Welcome to the Mighty Dragon, Alex Alessi. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Oh, just swell, hanging in there,
Well, I love
another
that
day.
word. You never hear that in the UK. You never hear the word swell, and I
It's a
think it
very
should make a
American
comeback.
word.
It is totally. We're here to discuss your acting career and what drew you to acting as a career.
Oh, I mean, when I was a kid, it was kind of like, you walk out of a movie. My mom would always say I walked out and I was quoting the whole movie. So I
Really?
don't know. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it was just little pieces of it, but like, I
Yeah.
distinctly remember I was a big fan of Batman in 1989, that whole movie, and I like to
Yeah.
this day I could still almost do the whole movie. I had a comic and all that, so like as a kid, I would just do it. I just pick it up like a sponge. And then elementary school you do plays, things like that, and I kind of got out of it in high school. I was like, that's stupid. I'm going to be in a band because it's much easier to make it as a band than to go ahead and learn lines all the time. I was a little gun shy about memorizing my lines. I was a little scared. I couldn't do it, which as a kid, I was a sponge and could do it. So it was just all up in
Yeah.
here. So yeah, like what happened is I ended up in college, trying to be in a band, pursuing graphic design, and I needed to take electives. And I took an acting class. And in there, that's when it's like, it just clicked. I could do the improv. I was constantly, you do a game where it's like, tag, you're it, and you keep coming in. And I kept getting back in the game every time. And then I'd learn lines, no problem, for the scenes we had
Yes.
to do. So that just led to student films, which kind of just made me say, well, why not? Why not go for it? You're right there. I'm right outside New York, about an hour away. Like, just get out there, and then the rest is history. I did some extra work. I was in The Last Airbender, from M. Night Shyamalan, which
Oh,
was interesting. It was a really cool, crazy, big set in a hangar. Like, so, you pick up those experiences and it just keeps rolling. And then you meet people along the way and it's just snowballed from there.
wonderful. Who was your favorite Batman, by the way?
Oh, that's a hard one. So I have a whole theory, I have a whole thing, because I'm a
Ooh,
huge Batman geek. I mean, who my favorite is, like, right? It's hard because I feel like Pattinson really did a good job. I thought in the last one, I love the detective style.
right.
Christian Bale really embodied a lot. But my whole thing is, there's never actually been a bad Batman. Every Batman has done exactly what that movie asked them to do. So even George Clooney, who Batman and Robin is ridiculous and not a
Oh,
good
yeah.
movie, he did exactly what was called for in the movie. It's like, this is what Joel Schumacher was going for in that movie. And obviously, George Clooney is not a bad actor.
Yeah.
It's just, so like my whole thing is like, there's never a bad version of Batman. There's a bad take maybe, but like every version has its own little place. So
Yes. That's a
yeah,
very wise answer. Very good answer.
I could have said Kevin Conroy. That would have been the best because that voice. Anytime I read a Batman comic, it's my childhood again. It's just all up in there. So probably Mark Hamill is the Joker too, though, in that case.
Oh,
So
yes.
so good.
Always. I would never
Oh,
ever diss Hamill in anything. He's my
oh, he's
absolute
amazing.
fave.
He's amazing. I love him.
Oh,
Everything about.
uh, can you share a memorable experience from one of your past roles?
Um, you know, it's funny because I was thinking about this a little bit, and I was trying to say, well, what makes a role memorable? And a lot of times you're going so fast. There's not much you can think of on set. You're just kind of like, oh, that was cool. It was a good day. You make it through. I always found like the most memorable things are like when something went wrong.
Yeah.
Something went wrong. So I have two feature films that I made, and the first one, it's a movie called Nomad. It's just about a guy and a girl in a house overnight catching up. They're like they were high school sweethearts, and 10 years later they meet up again. So we're good to go. We're making this movie. We shot one day. And then suddenly my lead actress was like, oh no, I can't do this. I have a play and I messed up. It's a scheduling conflict. I'm like,
Oh no.
great. We were trying to shoot this tight schedule, tight budget. So I shoot the whole next day, just pick up scenes for myself while scrambling to get a new actress. And we found, through pure luck, Facebook, Sarah Weber, who ended up in the movie. So what makes it memorable, working with her was great. Everything was great. It was really tight knit, almost like a family unit. There's only 4 or 5 people on set the whole time, really micro budget.
Right.
But her first day, she comes in, and we had a few scenes we had to do, and most of it's a night shoot. There's a scene in the movie where we go skinny dipping, and how, because I directed it as well, how we planned to sell it so Sarah didn't have to take off any clothing if she didn't want to. She could just, we'll fake it. I have to jump in this pool naked.
Oh.
It's the first time I've ever met this woman. First day, we've only shot a few scenes, and the way we planned to shoot it, which I'm kicking myself for this now, was she walks over and we swing over and you see me jump in the pool. So this poor girl meets me, and the first night she meets me, she has to watch me jump in the pool naked like 3 times.
Oh no.
And the worst part, you're going through the edit of it, and her eye line just kept not lining up because she was like, I don't want to, I don't want to. And, from that night though, like and we're still really good friends to this day. Like everything was there. Like I find that if you have a respectful set and everyone just like respects boundaries, even if you have an intimate moment like that and it's sprung on you, which I've walked onto short film sets and it's like, hi, this is so-and-so, and you'll be making out with her in 2 seconds. Make it the biggest, sloppiest kiss you've ever done. Literally, also, that's another memorable one that's happened to me. That wasn't a disaster, but that was early on. It was like, oh, hi, it's so nice to meet you. Okay. But yeah, the worst part about that with Sarah is I realized we did whip pan, and I could have just had her not there, and we could have edited in the whip pan, and she didn't have to see me naked. And so, it's things like that. And then the other feature that I did a little bit before that, a little bit after, it took a while to shoot this one. When Everything's Gone, we actually had a director originally attached who, for the first 3 days of shooting, found himself with a scheduling conflict somehow. So the director of your movie couldn't be there.
Oh.
And he had an assistant director who ended up being the co-director with me on the film. Yeah. And also a sound recordist who actually I'm really great friends with. We're producing partners now, all this stuff, built a great relationship from it. So they show up on set. He's not there. The assistant director suddenly has to direct it, and that's not an assistant director's job.
Yeah, wow.
So we're shooting through the day, and they pull me aside. I'm like, oh no. They're like, we need to talk to you about something. I'm like, they think this is horrible. This is me trying to make this happen. This is how you make an acting career happen. You gotta create your own stuff, and I think it's good. Everyone's telling me it's good, and they're gonna hate this. We were supposed to do an overnight shoot at a cabin about 3 hours away. They're both married and have wives, and their wives were not happy with the fact that they had no clue they were supposed to sleep over because they weren't informed from the former director they were supposed to be there. So I scrambled. I had to do a recast on a part. I had to rearrange stuff, relearn lines in my head because I'm doing all this work. And we kind of just like shot as much as we could, as late as we could that next day. Might have broke a couple of rules to get that done, but it built this camaraderie that will always stick with me. And like almost everyone on that movie, I work with all the time now. And we all keep together because we came together and made a movie happen. And I think that's always the most memorable thing when you're working on something and you build these relationships that just last because you work together well and you found a good groove. And then from there, it's like, I want to do it again. I don't care if something goes wrong because I know the worst thing could happen and you're going to make it work and you're going to make something we're all proud of. So
that's great.
It's a lot. But yeah, that's usually where the memorable stuff comes from for me is something terrible happens. And then it's like, but we made it okay.
Great. How do you prepare for a new character and immerse yourself in the role?
It's all very specific to the role a lot of times. So like, for instance, when I did my movie When Everything's Gone, it's a post-apocalyptic thing. We shot the first part of the movie is like a year or two earlier. And then I took an entire year off and I lost a ton of weight. I lost like 20, 30 pounds because he was supposed to be alone in a post-apocalyptic event for 2 years. So for that,
I need
had
your
to get
weight
in
loss
shape.
secrets. Sorry, I need your weight loss secrets.
My friend Chris, who is a trainer.
Right.
Now, weight loss secret: eat less than you're burning through a day. That is the main thing. Everyone's like, don't eat carbs. Don't eat yeah, you want to balance things. It's probably better to eat less fast for what's going on in here.
Yeah.
Just as long as you're eating a little bit less, then you'll somehow something will burn off. But
sorry, I butted in. No, carry on, please.
No, absolutely. Like it's a big thing with so many people that prepare for roles. You see superhero movies, Hugh Jackman. Oh my God. The way they get stuff done, they have nutritionists. They have so many resources to go ahead and transform. When you're trying to do it yourself, yeah, it is hard to figure it out. It's hard. Like I'm lucky I had a personal trainer friend, and I try to keep the weight off now. But yeah, it's always stuff like that. I start with a physical transformation. So like, if a director, I did a short film with this great guy, Errol Mars. It was actually end of 2020. We shot this, which was frightening in its own right because first time on set during all that craziness. But he's like, I don't want you to have a beard.
Right.
So that's kind of where it starts. You're like, okay, well, if I don't have a beard, that kind of dictates how that's going to feel, what kind of character I'm playing. And when you see the movie, just getting rid of this, it shaves off a couple of years, so I look a little younger. But also it just adds a goofy feel to it, and it's a comedy. So there's stuff like that I'll do. It's a nomad. I was supposed to be pretty much living out of my car, and I was already prepping for being in an apocalypse. So I had no shaving my beard. I didn't comb my hair. Just look as grimy as possible. And if you build up that outer feeling and appearance, I always find like the internal stuff comes.
Right.
It really comes from there. My friend Jamal Green, I was on a web series of his called Chronicles of. I think it's Chronicles of a Profile, but each episode Chronicles of whatever. Yes. But I was supposed to play a cop that like was in the military, had like some PTSD issues, stuff like that. For me, it was like, all right, well, what's the wardrobe? What's that like? For whatever scenes. So you get like an A shirt or something like that you wear underneath. So I had some dog tags, things like that, just to commemorate that. You start building that stuff out. And then, yeah, like internally, it's got to really, I was never a veteran, so I don't really know that I can truly speak to that experience, but you dig into whatever you can inside. You think about your memories. What was traumatic for you? What will build on that? And that's where you pull from it. And like, I had to shoot a moment for him that I just kind of shot myself because he needed it as a flashback. And I had to really dig into this moment where it's supposed to be a war flashback. And I'm like laying on the ground and there's bombs and stuff going off. And just like, you just feel whatever it is, that terror that would be. You find what scared you in your mind and you do it, so.
Are there specific genre or types of characters that you enjoy portraying the most?
I think of myself a lot of times. I like to think of myself as going for an everyman who just gets thrust into whatever extreme situations going on, no matter, it could be a little extreme, whatever. Now, Die Hard always comes to mind. Like, I would love to be an action star and do all that kind of stuff. I'd love to be a superhero. But a big thing as an actor is you got to know where you fall in there. Because as much as I'd love to be like, well, I could be the next Chris Evans. Chris Evans, I am not. Like there's certain characters I could fall in there where I would work. I would have, when I was younger, I could have been a Spider-Man because Spider-Man's supposed to be just the average Joe that you wouldn't think about. Things like that is really where my mindset starts with roles. I mean, I've been tossed into plenty of things as villains and stuff like that, where I guess if you're a villain, you're rarely the everyman as a villain. You're usually something diabolical or brilliant, whatever it is. But that's usually where I find I fit. Not to be that I'm an average person, but that person that you kind of look at and you can reflect on. If you're just an average cis white male, that fits into that mold, which probably makes it hard to get cast, if I'm being honest, because there's probably a million of me out there, which is the fact that that's changed. That's great. I love that. I love that the industry is shifting and doing different things. I'm constantly trying to do that. One of the downsides of both my features is I feel like there wasn't enough diversity. but that comes with budget and time. And do we have a chance to go ahead and expand this and do more? It's like, we didn't. I'm always looking for that as a filmmaker. And then, yeah, as an actor, you just find that spot that you're that everyman. So yeah, I mean, if I could be a superhero one day, that'd be so cool. It'd be great.
Wow. I hope
But
you
I
are.
wouldn't be Batman. I love him, but there's no way I couldn't. It wouldn't happen. So
Never say never. You
never say
know.
never. You
Never
know,
know.
they just released a trailer for their new like Christmas thing that's gonna be on Amazon. It's like, well, that's definitely different. So you never know. They might be like, you would be perfect. Maybe it's like a throwback to Michael Keaton, because he also doesn't look like he should be Batman, but that man is Batman.
He's my favorite. He's my favorite. Definitely.
It's hard not to love him. Like it's there.
Really good.
For a lot of us, that's the introduction. I mean, you have your Adam West, of course. You can't.
Yes.
No one can ever discount Adam West. He gets to be in his own little pocket over here.
Yes.
But yeah, he set the bar, and it's such a high bar. It really is such a high bar.
Yeah. He's such a great actor as well, isn't he?
Amazing. Yeah.
Really amazing. What challenges have you faced in your acting career, and how did you overcome them?
It's finding that next thing is usually the hardest challenge. You know, if you're not creating your own stuff, casting is tough. It's tough. And I think, yes, it's getting that experience, finding that next project. Yeah, I mean, if you can't deal with the rejection of losing out on almost every role, then it's probably not the business for you, because that is the job. The job is literally to just be able to take rejection and keep moving forward. A lot of times, having been on both sides of the casting, whatever you're doing might not be wrong. It's just not right for that moment. But it doesn't mean you're bad. Just someone else had a better take. And like that's the toughest thing. You got to be able to prepare yourself like that. You got to be able to look at it and say, hey, it's okay. Keep pushing forward. You tried something, it didn't work. It doesn't mean that you're giving a bad reading. It just means that it wasn't the right reading. So it's always that, trying to find those footholds in the industry and keep moving forward. I've always struggled. I still don't have it. I've had a few times of representation, getting a manager, an agent, and it's a long haul to try and do that, but it shouldn't stop you. I always put myself in the place of, you got to be able to keep creating. And yeah, if you can't book those roles through auditions and stuff, you got to build those networks. If you can't write your own movie, make friends with people that can. Try and see what's going on. And even if it's a small part, that's what happens. Everything I've built with my acting career, a lot of it comes from, I was on a film set, I met people, I treated them right, I treated them with respect, I built a friendship, and maybe it's a year later, maybe it's 5 years later. I think in one case it was almost like 10 years. So I knew this person, we kept in touch, and it's suddenly, hey, we should work on this thing together. And it just kind of goes from there. I met this great actor, Danny Donnelly, who's amazing. He's so talented. He's also a really talented DP, all that. But I met him on Last Airbender. We were both extras. I was doing fighting. He was like a villager. We met very briefly. We met again maybe a year later at an audition in Philadelphia. And they made us read together. And I was kind of like, hey, I know you from the thing. Cool. Then maybe another year after that, he was making a short film and had auditions for it. I won red for it, and they're like, dude, definitely, you should come work on us. Like, we're so glad you're around. Like, great. And then later that year, he was in a short film I did. And to this day, like, we'll just keep in touch, and it'll always be ideas, and we're looking for projects to work on together, because we met one day at an audition after working together on something where we were just extras.
Yeah.
So cultivating those relationships are so important, because it makes those tough things of working through the industry to get work done that much easier, because you have that camaraderie. You're in the trenches together with these people, like I said, never been in war, but I do understand that whole, you're in this together.
Yeah.
That's how things really happen.
Great. Can you discuss a project where you had to work closely with other actors, and how did you collaborate?
Yeah. So I did a pilot for a show called Life in Waiting. And the whole concept is people that work in like a restaurant. It's like you know, very chain restaurant type thing, and it's not doing well. So it's an ensemble piece that we put together, and the whole concept is these people are working there, but we're following their lives of how they're trying to get out. And so it's not the bear where like, yeah, we love restaurants. It's like, no, no, I want to go do this thing, but this is how I'm paying the bills, and I need to get out of it. So, you know, you put people together for that one episode. There's only so much you can really do, and so many character moments you can tell. But I was so enamored with the cast we put together for it and the people that we brought in, which, like, speaking of memorable moments, we had one actor set to play a cook who was supposed to be of Mexican descent and all this stuff. And the guy dropped out saying, like, he doesn't want to feel like a stereotypical Mexican or something like that. He was worried that that's what was going to happen. I waited tables for a long time with a lot of people from Mexico, Ecuador, all over.
Yeah.
So I was trying to be as respectful as possible with that, because those are the people I was trying to tell a story of.
Right.
But there's this brilliant Spanish actress that I worked with named Sandra that was in When Everything's Gone. And I was like, hey, would you like to play this part? She came in, and her chemistry with the one other cook in it, like, amazing. So much fun. And just, that was the stuff that made it so memorable, is you had these little pieces to the puzzle. We had this one bartender that had like maybe a line, 2 lines in the whole script, played by this great actor named Dax. Really awesome guy. He took it and he just ran with it to where it's like, the next episode in my mind, like, we're going to be elevated. You're a regular without question. You're going to be so good, because everyone was just bringing themselves to the part, and we were all just improvising and doing. We had 3 cameras going at the same time, so we could just make stuff up. And like, that chemistry is just, when you have that on a set as an actor, it's a playground. You have so much fun, and it really makes me want to make that show. But yeah, that's really, thinking about that is always, like, every experience working with actors is different. And, you know, you always find what's going to work with whoever you're working with. But that really clicked to me, because it was just a bunch of us. It was like a jazz band. It just felt like we were just improvising all over, having a great time, and just creating something that really could have, we were thinking it could have been like The Office. It could have been that kind of thing. You pop it on and love it and enjoy it. But yeah, that's the moment I felt like, yeah, those people I want to work with so bad again.
How do you handle criticism or feedback about your performances?
So it depends on where it's coming from. If it's coming from like peers I've worked with, even a bad note, there's a good note in there. I've gotten plenty of notes where it's like, what are you doing? And then you have to think about it for a minute and say, all right, well, if you're having this issue, maybe this is a solution. But also, like, sometimes there aren't issues there. Sometimes they're exactly what you need to hear. Like, oh, that you're right. That's awful. So that's why I always try to do. You got to be open to it. I think collaboration is such a big part of acting and filmmaking. You know, if I have an edit and it's too long, it's really good for someone to say, you don't need that beat. It shouldn't be in there. Right. You know, there's some stuff that didn't look right, and When Everything's Gone, the way it was shot. And it was just because we were up against it on filming day. And so stuff didn't get shot right. But going through that and getting notes, I was able to say, well, what if we combine this scene and this scene? And we made like a little montage out of it. And it just built the moment so well. Right. And that only happened because someone else watched the movie and said, this isn't working for me. And on set, same thing. If you're doing something, it's not big enough, it's not small enough. And as long as someone tells you straight up how it is, not a long way around to tell you, don't overcomplicate it. It's always good to take the note and go with it, even if you don't agree with it, to find something in it. But yeah, if it's like a user review on Amazon for your movie, that's usually a bad idea. I've learned that now. Don't read the user reviews, because unless you're a huge movie, it's very unlikely you're getting a positive feedback that someone, because I don't know what it is with the internet. I mean, it is the internet, but a lot of people like to put their negativity out there before their positivities. Yeah. If your movie blows up, you might find some good ones. Man, so like, I made it 15 minutes in. It's like, so you didn't watch the whole movie then? Cool. Great. So that's how I stand on it. If you know what you're talking about, I will find a note. But if you're just whoever, on Amazon. I'm probably not going to even look at it.
Fair enough. There's a troll central there.
Oh God, so many. So
now,
many.
I think you've already answered this next question, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
That's fine.
Are there any are there any dream roles or projects you aspire to be part of in the future?
Yeah, superhero. Definitely want to be a superhero.
Yeah.
No, right now, for me, it's always like the next thing that is on deck, in a realist sense. I mean, God, it's like Christopher Nolan called. I'm not saying no, sure.
Yeah.
But right now, like, so I'm developing, I've got my own features that I'm developing with producing partners. It's like, we're looking for funding, trying to get that going. That's really like, those are the dream projects, because you have this idea, you have people on board, they're interested, you've refined it, you've taken those notes and you're building something. And the more you're building that up and creating things, like you're finding those characters and you really want to embody that. Like you want to do that so bad. So yeah, like right now I've got a movie that it's called Kings and Pawns, and it's the movie Blind Spotting meets John Wick is how I've put it.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it's about veterans that come home and they're working for like a storage company as movers. And they go and they have some very rich clients that they move stuff into storage for. And occasionally they will pawn something off just to get a little bit extra cash because they're not really getting by. One day they're put on a really important job and they end up taking from the wrong person and chaos ensues. But there's a lot. It's really a layered thing. Like that's like as best of an elevator pitch as I can get for it. But it's really layered and there's a lot going on there. And it deals with a lot of themes that I really care about and things like that. So yeah, I mean, I really want to make that. It's just, you got stunt people involved. You want to make sure that they're paid well and that everything is taken care of and everyone's safe. And then the other one I have a movie that's a horror movie called Development Hell. And it's about a writer that's working on a cursed project, like a cursed screenplay that the studio executive gives him to, I guess, make his life a living hell. That's a whole thing where it's like, I'd love to do it. I know so many people want to do horror. I just did like a horror short that was really fun.
Yes.
And yeah, like it's those things, like I want to get those checked off. And then once they're out there, it's like, all right, so what's next? What's the big thing? When is Chris Nolan going to call me already so we can start working on it? I'm available.
Great. Would he be the perfect director for you, do you think?
That's a tough, I mean, it really depends because I feel like he sounds like an amazing director to work with.
Yes.
But like you got your list of dream directors. I don't know if he'd be perfect, but like Denis Villeneuve, like holy crap, everything he's done. I'm still very upset that Dune had to move. I know why it had to move. Still upset. Like they're doing amazing work, but someone like Wes Anderson, if I could get in a Wes Anderson movie, that's there's so many incredible voices out there that it's hard to be like, that's the guy. Honestly, I think the guy, no one knows who it is yet. Like that's you'll find that person. I always find it really interesting to find out that Martin Scorsese and Robert De Niro grew up on like the same block in New York and didn't really know, they knew of each other. Yeah.
Wow.
The same town, at least. I don't know the exact same block, but they're both similar. They knew of each other, but didn't know each other really well. And at some point they're like, oh, hey, yeah, you're Bobby. And oh yeah. And they built this career eventually just working and they're still making movies together. And it's like,
that's crazy, isn't it?
It's nuts. But who was Martin Scorsese then? Now he's, like, oh my God, that whole group of filmmakers is insane. But that excites me. Like, obviously you get a call from one of the big ones. That's awesome. I lose my mind. But when you're working with that one person that you're the first to see it, like that person's a genius. Maybe it's me. That'd be fun. But that'd be so cool to see that happen.
Okay. How do you balance staying true to a character versus bringing your unique interpretation to a role?
So I think that the best way to even think about that is that everything has to be about the truth of the character at the end of the day. Whatever's on the page, you can interpret it how you're going to and all that, but it's got to be right for what's there. And maybe what you think is right is something way different than someone else did, and that's what got you the part in the first place. But I always think at the end of the day, they have to come hand in hand. They have to work together. Because if you're doing something that's like way out there, out of left field, doesn't really work, it could come together and it could do that. But then you're kind of doing a disservice to what the writers put the work into.
Right.
And sometimes, like things happen. Writers get rushed all the time. Characters get underdeveloped. And you get to come play. You get to be like, this is what I'm doing with it. And they didn't think about it. It's not on the page at all. And that's awesome. All of it has to come down to, what is this character? Who is he? Where are they going in their journey? And what do you bring to it? And then there's always going to be little things. Like I always think about like Harrison Ford. He's always pointing at people. Things like that you just bring to it. Or Leo DiCaprio raises a glass. I don't know if that's really happened a lot, but it seems like it. There's things you can't help. That's just you. That just comes through that you don't mean to. And that's always the fun part, where no matter how out there what you're doing is, when that piece of you from your life experience and all that comes through, and there's that moment of realism there, because it's just you living in the moment. That's that's the fun part. I think always, when it blurs into, are you really acting, or are you just feeling this moment and doing it like you would in real life?
So your last question, you'll be pleased to hear, is what advice would you give to aspiring actors entering the industry?
Just keep going. Like once you get in here, it's going to be hard. You're going to go, you're going to sit in a room, and you're going to look around and you're going to see 17 other versions of you.
Right.
And that's a lot. You see a lot, but they're not you. They might look like the same thing, but you're bringing something unique to the table. You're going to get rejected. You're going to feel embarrassed. I remember sitting in an audition. It was like on Broadway. It wasn't for a Broadway show, just on Broadway. I went to community college. I didn't go to NYU, any of that stuff. I didn't put a lot of money into college. Why I'm not in debt right now, probably. These guys looked at my resume, saw that, and you could just see the nose go, It was the biggest snobbery I could ever experience in a room, and it made you feel less than. You walk out that door, you walk back through Times Square, which any actors, any people in New York will tell you it's the worst. Because, and rightfully so, it's a tourist trap. There's people from all over the country in this one little square foot of wherever New York, and that's where this audition was. But you walk through there and you just start thinking about your career, thinking about what you do, and you say, those guys don't know me. They don't know what's going on here. They read on a piece of paper I went to a community college, and that's when they decided they weren't going to give me a chance. Everything you do in the room matters. So that's what I would say. Don't let them derail you. You keep going, keep creating, do what you can. If you can't shoot your own movie, you can't write your own movie, make friends with people that are. Student films are a beautiful backdoor to building a reel, because they're learning, and that's how you go ahead and you get those moments. Yeah, that's the biggest thing, is keep creating, keep acting. I think that after the pandemic and all that stuff, there was a little bit of lull in me creating stuff. I mean, most people, I think, fell into a little bit. And, I was developing those features and all that stuff and shot a couple of things. But this year specifically, I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to start making a short film every month, whether it's just to practice something with directing or building out acting moments. I'm going to create, and we're going to see what happens. And I've been going really good with it. I think I'm going to get 6 or 7 out this year that I put together, but it's just really good to create, because at the end of the day, let's say you make a movie and it's horrible. You shot this short film, you did a thing for your reel, it's just terrible. You could just put that aside. It was an experience you had. Move on to the next one. And you just keep pushing. If you love acting, I can't guarantee you're going to make money and be able to pay your bills doing it, but I can guarantee you that you'll always love doing it when you're doing it. So that's the best advice anyone could ever have. Act where you can act. Just like a writer. A writer writes always. An actor should be acting all the time, no matter what it means. So that's just keep going. Keep moving forward, as I believe Walt Disney said. Yeah, I think that was the one.
Oh, thank you so much for going through your career history, and also for all the advice and tips that you've given. And please do come back to the Mighty Dragon when you're on Batman. Or you are Batman, sorry.
When I am Batman.
Not in Batman. Or Batman even.
I'll send you a video of me playing Batman. Now, When I found Matt Reeves was doing it, I'm like, I'm going to put this out here. It's not going to work, but I'm going to shoot a little short thing and I'm going to say, hey, Matt Reeves, me as Batman. So dark. Can't see any of it, but it's still fun to do.
Thanks so much, Alex. Have a really great day and hopefully see you back on the Mighty Dragon.
Yeah, looking forward to it. You too. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.